Everybody, welcome live to the Jim Masters Show, live entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series. Hope you guys are having a really good day. We have got an extraordinary guest who's joining us from upstate New York. Yeah. And he is a legend in the music business on so many different levels. He's responsible for so much great music that we have enjoyed over the years. Of course, a couple of really legendary songs from the movie soundtrack from the 1987 classic movie Dirty Dancing, starring Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey. As a matter of fact, the song that he co-wrote is I've Had the Time of My Life. Yes, of course, we still hear that all the time. That is a classic song. Makes you feel good too. And that is from the movie itself, from the soundtrack, Academy Award winning as well. Matter of fact, our guest, John, is an Academy Award winning songwriter. He's also a phenomenal multi-instrumentalist as well, and producer and singer. And not only did he co-write the song I've Had the Time of My Life, which was sung by Bill Medley, of course, from the Righteous Brothers, and the incomparable Jennifer Grey. He also co-wrote Hungry Eyes, which of course was made famous by the legendary and late, not that long ago, just passed Eric Carmen, of course, All By Myself and all of his amazing hits. Well, he is the original singer for Hungry Eyes. And our very special guest, John DeNicola, co-wrote that song that you still hear today that makes you feel good. And just, again, these songs are so definitive, classically 80s, but beyond Dirty Dancing, of course, you know, we're talking about an epic movie. That particular song, I've Had the Time of My Life, we're talking about well over 32 million copies sold, Billboard charting. This led to Academy Awards and Golden Globe Awards and Grammy nominations for our very special guest, which is extraordinary. And in addition to penning those two songs, co-writing those two songs, he has worked with legendary music entertainers like Eddie Money and John Waite and so many others. As a matter of fact, also even the band Maroon 5 as well. We'll talk about all of that in just a moment. But again, he's coming to us from upstate New York. He has been a part of our lives from a musical platform for decades, and it's a real honor and pleasure to have him here. In addition to all of that, he also owns OMAD Records too, and he has sort of mentored and inspired lots of other artists who have been up and coming, as I mentioned, like Maroon 5, and he's worked with Bernie Worrell and John Waite and Eddie Money and Corey Hart, Paul Young as well. Remember, Every Time You Go Away, You Take a Piece of Me with You, and so many others. As I mentioned, Eric Carmen, and yeah, this is amazing stuff. There he is back in the day. And of course, Bill Medley and Jennifer Warnes, who sang I've Had the Time of My Life, which is a very, very popular song and still is today. And again, coming from that movie, Dirty Dancing. In addition to all of that, as an Academy Award-winning songwriter, he has channeled his lifelong passion for music into a remarkably vibrant career in the recording industry on so many different levels, which I think is something really, really cool and really, really special. And we're going to talk about all that and what he's doing today and some of the extraordinary projects he has going. And again, so much of the music we have heard over the years, he's had an opportunity to be involved in. His songwriting successes do include co-writing the hit singles I've Had the Time of My Life and Hungry Eyes for Dirty Dancing, as I mentioned, playing a key role in the movie's emergence as an enduring cultural phenomenon. And as founder of the indie label OMAD Records, he's discovered and fostered the careers of a diverse range of musical acts. As I mentioned, Kara's Flowers, which is now Maroon 5, also an accomplished producer. He's finally honed his instincts, finally tuned them, and the vast experience with collaborations with legendary artists from all corners of the music world. He hails from New York, from out east on Long Island, and he got his start in music playing bass in a local band in junior high, and he later landed a deal with Motown Records as the bassist for jazz fusion group Flight, whose song Face to Face was sampled in the 2003 hit Back in the Day, which is amazing too. To talk about all this, he's worked, as I mentioned, with Corey Hart and Paul Young and so many others. He produces most of the albums for OMAD Records today, the catalog, such as the critically praised 2015 debut from the singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist Arwen Lewis, daughter of Moby Grape's Peter Lewis, founder of Moby Grape, and also Russ Dust's The Veneers and Shivs, and the Sighs' new release, Wait on Another Day. Over the past decade, he's also served as composer for the annual Shakespeare in the Valley program as well, and lots more. It's got lots of music that's out. He's been doing it for a long time, and we are very honored to have him here. Yep, you're looking at the screen. There's a cool shot of him as well, and this is something that is near and dear to his heart. This is something that he's done for a long time and loves it. Matter of fact, here's a great shot of him doing it as we speak. And he's in his studio right now, coming to us again from upstate New York. My pleasure to welcome John to our show. John, welcome to the Jim Masters Show, my friend. It's an honor and pleasure to have you here.
Well, thanks so much. I'm gasping at that introduction. I hope I can live up to my hype.
Absolutely. And you continue to, my friend. I mentioned, you grew up in New York out on Long Island. And what sort of inspired you even at all to want to get into music, working first with the local bands? And were you singing first, songwriting, or did both sort of come at you simultaneously?
Yeah. I always had music in, since I was 5 or 6 years old. Music was like, I don't know, it was like a good friend. It was like, somehow it's tied in with, a young kid, even at a very young age, feeling of, wanting to meet women, girls. I don't know. I'm not sure why. I think the first song that I noticed as a 6-year-old in Amityville was hearing it on the radio, and was Pretty Woman by Roy Orbison. And, that kind of heart, tugging vocal that he does, and the girl doesn't really want him, but then there at the end there's a little ray of hope. Wait a minute, she's coming back to me. I mean, I just remember being a 6, 7, 8-year-old and going, wow, that music is really moving me. And so we had music in the household. My mom played by ear, played piano. My dad had stereo, old, those big Norelco tape machines.
Yeah.
And my brother, my oldest brother, who was 10 years older, had a harmony guitar, acoustic. And I'll remember sitting in the basement there by myself, plucking the strings, not knowing what I was doing at all, overhearing my mother say, he sounds like he'd be good on guitar. So, and then we moved to Centerport, and I met two guys, two brothers, John and Ken Favre, and we started bands together. They had guitars, and I had taken some lessons in Amityville, and that was the beginning. And then I quickly, and right out of high school, got into a cover band. It was a 7-piece horn band called Sweetback, and notably out of that was with the band was just awesome. And my friend Tim Lawless, we were all best friends. And one of the horn players went on from our band to Billy Joel's band, Rich Canada. We were doing the circuit. We were a really good band. 7-piece was a little hard to, make any kind of money with because it was big. And but we played all over Long Island, upstate New York. I mean, we were actually approached by Foghat's manager at the time to do some original stuff, and we never quite, in fact, that kind of ended up breaking the band up because some of us wanted to keep going with clubs, and some of us wanted to do original music. I did have my friend Jim Yeager in that band. I'm not sure how we met, but he was in the band. He called me to be in the band Flight, which, as you mentioned, was signed to Motown, a jazz fusion band that was after the Sweetback Days. And I don't know. I guess
And
I
there's
went.
you guys on the screen right there, huh?
That's the earlier band. That's before I was. They did 2 records on Capitol.
Capitol, yeah.
Then there was a record that we did together. The 2 guys on the end and the middle were in the band with me, but the drummer and the bass player were different.
Yeah.
But it was on Motown. We were on Motown, and
Motown, right?
I think that's how Erykah Badu, because she was on Motown. I think that's how she found the song and sampled that for her hit back in the day. That brings us up to out of high school. I went to Berklee College of Music for a while. That's when I got the call to be in Flight. And then after that, I think I started getting into original bands, and the songwriting came out of being in an original band, needing material. So I just started writing songs. Fast forward to working on the music of Hungry Eyes, which wasn't Hungry Eyes yet, but I had bought a Roland Juno 106 keyboard, which is still used today. It's just a great synth. Guys like Kevin Parker from Tame Impala like this keyboard. It's just still a great sounding analog keyboard. Anyway, I got that back in the day, and Hungry Eyes just fell out playing that keyboard in like 10, 15 minutes, the music to it.
And was that specific for Dirty Dancing, or was that something you already had before Dirty Dancing even came along?
We were working on it. Frankie Previtt, who's my co-writer on both The Time of My Life and Hungry Eyes. Time of My Life was 3 of us, though, me, Donald Markowitz, and Frankie. But Frankie was on Millennium Records, and then he got dropped. Millennium Records was Jimmy Einer's record label. So Frankie I was working in this studio recording the music for Hungry Eyes. Wasn't Hungry Eyes yet. And Frankie was also working at the same studio. A guy named David Prater owned the studio, and he kind of put us together because Frankie was looking for material to try and get a new record deal for Frankie and the Knockouts, because Jimmy Einers folded his record label. So we worked on, Frankie heard that music track, which is kind of what you hear when you hear the song with the blung, dung, dung, all that stuff was in there. Frankie heard it and said, I'd like to, write a top line to that. And he did, and that became Hungry Eyes. So it was not specifically for Dirty Dancing. While we were working together on songs for Frankie and the Knockouts to get another record deal, Jimmy Einer, who I aforementioned owned Millennium Records, had this small little movie with Vestron Pictures, which was a tiny. They'd only done like videos at that point, VHS releases. They hadn't done a major movie release. Anyway, Jimmy called and said, "Listen, you guys, we need a song. They need a song for the closing of this movie, and Dirty Dancing." And Frankie was like, "Oh God, Dirty Dancing! What could that entail?" Just from the title. But they explained to us real quickly what they needed, and realized that we didn't have the gig. It was a cattle call, so everybody was submitting songs. He just told us what was needed, and I got a hold of Donald Markowitz, who I had been working with, but he also had a drum machine, which I did not have at the time. They were few and far between at that point. and because we thought it would be a dance tune because it's, and everybody was starting to use drum machines. And we got together and we worked that music out and handed it off to Frankie. So that song was written for Dirty Dancing. But once that song was in the movie, they called us in to see another scene. Am I getting ahead of everything, or is this okay?
No, this is terrific. Yeah.
So we went into both Eleanor Bergstein, who was the writer, and Emil Ardolino, who was the director, called us in because they needed a song for another scene. And we went in and they showed us the scene that ended up being Love Man. I carried a watermelon scene, and they said, well, that song Hungry Eyes doesn't really work there, but we might have another spot for it. And of course, that famously ended up in that three-way dance sequence that it ended up in. So we were fortunate on both those. The time of my life. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, did you already have? Who selected Eric Carmen to be the one with that extraordinary voice? And we just lost him not that long ago. But what a unique voice, and his songs, of course, still touch everybody and stand the test of time as well. How did that come about where he ended up being the one, vocalizing that song for all of us?
Yeah, sadly, Eric's passing was kind of a jolt, a shock to everyone. His credits as a songwriter and singer and all that are impeccable, wonderful. It's a funny story because when we came in for a third time to for another part of the movie, and while we were in looking for this other scene, we said no. Emil said, what's the beats per minute on Hungry Eyes? And Frankie and I said, well, we're about to go into the studio to record it, so we're not exactly sure yet. We don't, and he goes, oh, wait a minute. No, we already have it. It's done. Eric Carmen is singing. Frankie was supposed to, as far as we knew, Frankie was going to sing Hungry Eyes. Of course, he sang on the demo, and it was kind of a shock to us. So I don't know. I can't answer specifically. Jimmy Einer had worked with the Raspberries and Eric Carmen, and I don't know. We don't know how that happened, but it did, and we're happy it did.
A great choice, right? Yeah. Did a great job on that. And you can still, that's one of those songs where if you just say Hungry Eyes, you hear that song in its entirety in your head. It's one of those, that's the key to a successful song of any kind, even a key to a successful commercial campaign, is when you hear it over and over and you hear the melody and it just grabs you and it sticks with you all these years later. You can still hear it. You can move to it. You hear the rhythm and the lyrics and just Hungry. It's just there, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's were you surprised by the success first with that song and how it resonated with so many people? And of course, the movie being a part of, Dirty Dancing just elevates things even more.
Yeah, well, Time of My Life was the hit first out of the movie.
Yes.
And I think at first the movie kind of moved the things is the string line that Gene Page added, which was really a string line that he had done originally, very close to the string line that's in You Lost That Lovin' Friend. Da, 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 da. So they put that in there again to tie it into 1963. And then Jennifer Warnes came later. I know on the list was Donna Summer, Donna Summer. Who else was it? I think Cher was mentioned. Diana Ross was mentioned. I don't know how they ended up with Jennifer Warnes, but I knew those people. I know Donna Summer didn't want to do it because she didn't like the title. At least that's the rumor I heard. So I don't know. I know Bill was definitely to try and tie it to that era.
I tell you, when you hear their voices, and when he starts with no, you just automatically,
Yeah. No, I know. When he didn't first want to do it, because I think his wife was about to have a baby, who was actually the young lady that you see in that picture that you just show with him. She was just about to be born. That's how long ago the movie came out. So he didn't want to have to fly to New York. He's a West Coast guy. He didn't want to fly to New York. So it wasn't until Jimmy told him that Jennifer Warnes would do it, because he always wanted to sing with Jennifer Warnes, and that they would record it on the West Coast, did he commit to do it. And the first thing he said was, how am I going to sing that? That's too high for me. And I guess Jimmy said, well, pull it down the octave, or I don't know who made the suggestion, but they pulled it down the octave, and it, it gives it much more of a Johnny and Baby thing, with him being the guy, and so that's how that ended up.
And I tell you, not only did it resonate with the moviegoers, and I mean, it's one of those iconic movies of all time, Dirty Dancing, and just the storyline and the romance and just all the aspects of it, dance and song and relationships, everything was in that movie, but led to quite a few very nice accolades. And of course, it's an Academy Award winning song, and Golden Globe winner you are, and Grammy nominated. And when you go from the local band with the buddies out on Long Island to that, could you ever have imagined?
Well, you hope you do it because music permeates me. I'm always thinking in musical terms. And it's funny, after being in the business for so long, I feel like I'm at the top of my game now. Now is when I feel like I can do whatever comes into my head and turn it into something. Even when the record came out, I did have an opera singing cousin who was about 20 years older than me. I went to his house, and it was just as it was coming out, and he was like, that's an Academy Award winning song. You're going to win the Academy Award. This was early on. It was a small film company. It wasn't, Columbia Pictures or MGM. It was a small film company. That movie took off. As Emil Ardolino would say, the director, it was just a confluence of things coming together that you couldn't have forced. It was the little movie that could, really. And a lot of that there's so many reasons for it. It's the great script that Eleanor wrote. It's the great direction. Somebody like Emil, who hadn't done too many, he'd done some PBS dance things, and he hadn't done, so his eye for just to elevate it a bit. Patrick and Jennifer come off so real. It's one of those movies that you can watch over and over and over, and not see acting. How you sometimes
yes,
a couple of times go, well, yeah, okay, I'm not completely.
They're sort of forcing it, right?
Yeah, well, you just see it. The first time through, okay, all right, second, third, fourth, you start to see, scenes being acted.
Did you get to interact with Patrick and Jennifer at all?
Only at the awards shows.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. They really nailed it. That's for sure.
They did. It was a confluence of everything: songs, acting, script, direction, Kenny Ortega's dance. It's one of those things that you can't put your finger on. It's just like you mentioned about a song like Hungry Eyes that just permeates and gets into you. If you could do that all the time, you would, but there's no explanation. It just happens. It's
and another thing, in addition to the accolades and to still, when you hear you can have these melodies in your head and they stick with you all these years. And of course, those are tests of time. That's just successful songwriting and musicianship and all of it. And those songs blend so beautifully with the movie. But the fact that when you aren't even thinking about the movie and you just hear those songs come on the radio, or if people have the CDs, whatever, you download from Spotify, wherever you get the music these days, those songs still hearken back to this time, and it brings up all these great memories. So these songs are not necessarily just random songs. They've been tied to a certain time period of our lives and have stuck with everybody. And you look back at those times and it gives you memories and thoughts. And you know that you've got a very, very successful song when the beautiful music, easy listening orchestras do their instrumental cover versions of them, which both of those songs have been covered in every which way possible.
So true. I just heard it the other day by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. And that was almost like when I said, what you just said. It's like, wow, I think we've hit the big time. The Royal Philharmonic can play that song and it sound like a classical piece. We're lucky. We're lucky we hit on something that resonated with people. I'm actually redoing a dance version right as we speak.
Really?
Just an up tempo for commercials or whatever.
Yeah.
I want something, the song was like at 109 beats per minute. I have it up at like 114, 115 beats per minute for like a, kick drum.
Well, isn't that cool? A lot of you'll hear commercials today and other things, and you'll hear music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe the 50s, the 90s, and it will sound to maybe folks who weren't around then like it's a brand new song. They'll be like, is that new? Oh, I like that beat behind that, sports story or newscast or commercial. And you'll be like, no, that actually, was more by the Andrea True connection, that beat or whatever. And they'll sample these things and that's coming back. And that's really a cool thing. It sort of introduces music from different genres to a whole new audience. And I'm sure you have found that to be the case with your music.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that more, because there was a sample in that to remake that, to make that song originally. What was the question?
About the fact that so many of these songs of then are being used in commercials and things of that nature, and it sort of gives it a new life and introduces these classic songs to a whole new generation who thinks it's new music, and they want to say, gee, I kind of like that sound, I like that music, I don't hear it out now, who are they, what is that? And they get introduced to it.
It's true. We are always fielding propositions for a commercial for Time of My Life and Hungry Eyes all the time. Somebody just used it. UKG are using it right now. They're a big HR company where I hadn't heard of, but they have it they're using it. Hungry Eyes was just used for Planters cashews or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
I could see, yeah, Hungry Eyes for like
yeah, of course.
food or a restaurant
Yeah.
chain, Hungry Eyes. And then I've had the time of my life. My God, that could be used for so many incredible things where you're looking back at a major event or a major celebration or something important with prominence. I've had the time of my life.
Well, it's it's wedding. It's a standard bearer at weddings and stuff like that. Yeah, this stuff is cyclic. I just listened a little bit to Taylor Swift's new record, and it's kind of harkens to 80s synth pop in a way, sonically. And actually, I redid Hungry Eyes for my own record, which I did in 2019 on the Why Because, and I had consulted with my son, who's was maybe 27 at the time, and I said, how can I do Hungry Eyes on my record that is, I can't compete with the original. I have to do it differently. He said, well, why don't you there's a lot of bands like indie rock bands that are sort of hearkening back to the 80s synth pop that was Hungry Eyes. And so that's how I approached it. And in fact, he played drums on it, and not unlike, say, a Tame Impala tune or a Alex G tune. So yeah, I feel like there's and not to sound like get off my lawn old guy, songs today are kind of morphed from samples and rap music and R&B music, and so there's a lot of similarities
Yeah.
with the, like, sometimes you could hear the same track with this one's voice or that one,
right, and it's a blur sometimes. Everything sounds the same.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I don't want to sound like get off my lawn, but I and I feel like it might be moving back to a little more melodies that change. There's a lot of melody, but it stays the same, and the chord changes underneath it in a lot of modern pop today. The same chord changes going underneath a melody that keeps getting repeated.
Bringing back some real instruments now too,
yeah,
maybe.
real instruments, and a melody with a verse, and then maybe a B verse, and then a chorus,
Right.
instead of sort of mosaic pieces of loops.
That doesn't stay with you, like you can hear Hungry Eyes in your ears.
I wonder in 20 years, are you going to be humming those tunes?
Right.
I don't know. I'm not saying it's easy to do either.
No.
I'm not saying it's easy to just put together a modern pop track
today, right?
Not.
Yeah, right.
But I feel like there was more variances.
You could let the song breathe. You had some more time.
Yes.
Now everything has to be an immediate split-second hit almost.
Yeah, you got to get there. You got to get to that chorus. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like music. I hear some newer artists, and there seems like there's a little more musicality,
craving going back to or really incorporating some of the previous into the newer music. You've had incredible collaborations, or who've mentored or worked with some other iconic people who have also had some great melodic music. Paul Young.
Yeah, I played bass with Paul for a while he was in the States. I did a couple of music videos with him.
Yeah, of course, he had that hit Every Time You Go Away. I mean,
and
it's another one. When you hear that, you start singing it, and it's still with you all these years later.
He had that remake of "Oh Girl."
Right, "Oh Girl." Corey Hart, another.
Corey Hart, I worked as a bass player in his band for a while before he took off. I just did it actually through Rich Kanata, who I mentioned earlier, was in our band. Rich was managing and producing, and he called me in as a bass player.
You also worked with Eddie Money.
Eddie Money was actually just a song. We worked a little on that together, but it was a song that I had written with John Waite that Eddie heard and wanted to cover. And so that was really a John Waite, John DeNicola song.
What was the song?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Shoot. He changed the title. Our title. Oh God, you're throwing me here.
Yeah, right. That's Eddie Money on the screen, and there's John Waite, of course. Another.
What was the song? Eddie Money's version was "Can You Fall in Love Again?"
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Our title was similar. Can you fall? Can you walk away? I think it was "Can You Walk Away." I can't remember.
And we just lost Eddie not that long ago
as
well, and he actually had that incredible song in that period of the 80s with a dear friend of our family and a best friend's mother, Ronnie Spector, would "Take Me Home Tonight."
Yeah,
just
great
like
song.
Ronnie sang "Be My Little Baby," tying back to the "Be My Baby" with the Ronettes, which was a whole thing. And that was that sort of was a great resurgence for Eddie and for Ronnie Spector as well. Sort of
great song too.
When you hear that again, that's from the 80s. When you hear that song, same thing. And John Waite, like you said, you worked with John too, another iconic figure in music, and of course Bernie too.
Bernie Worrell. Yep.
Yeah. What would you recall the project working with Bernie?
That was his. I'm trying to think how we met. We met through a mutual friend, actually, and he was doing a solo record, and he called me in to work on a track with him, and I also brought my friend Patty Maloney in as a lyricist, and Bernie was the sweetest.
Yeah,
just a sweet and extremely talented. I mean, just the people he played with, of course, Parliament Funkadelic, and then he was in Talking Heads, and then he was in Chrissy Hines' band, The Pretenders. Just a sweet, wonderful, talented guy.
On so many different levels too, and so much incredible music over the years. And when you look at these figures and how much they've really touched our lives, and some continue to as well, including yourself. Kara's Flowers or Maroon 5 too, huh? Yes. Oh, there's that She Said. Yeah, that we'll talk about that in a second. But Maroon 5.
Maroon 5. We started then. I was working. I had a OMAD Productions then. It's now OMAD Records, but OMAD Productions, and it was with a friend of mine, Tommy Allen, who was in a band with me. And Tommy was living in Malibu, and he was walking along the beach, and he heard Maroon 5, which was just
Kara's Flowers, right?
Kara's Flowers, right? You heard Kara's Flowers, which was in this picture. Well, the drummer is different. The guy sitting in the chair was Ryan Dusick. And then the second from the left was not in the band. So left Jesse, middle, of course, Adam
Levine,
was the bass player. Oh gosh, he actually played on my record, and I'm losing his name right now. But anyway, he
happens to everybody.
Yeah. I hate to do it to him.
There's so many names and so many people. Yeah,
he's the one I stayed very close with. But I haven't.
So did you mentor them? How did the relationship happen?
We went into the studio. Tommy heard them and said, "Let's go in the studio." And they were like 16 years old, and we went and recorded a whole record. And was about to sign them to a record deal, and one of these music business things happened to us, and Warner Brothers kind of swiped them from us. Although we did retain, they did buy out our master for a lot more than I paid for it. And they also gave us points for the first Kara's Flowers record, which didn't take off. So, you know, and they re-recorded everything, and that was sort of the problem. They re-recorded everything, and I would say years later, I spoke with Bob Cavallo, whose son Rob Cavallo was at Warner and produced the record that came out. And Bob was saying, well, gosh, we should have just put out that first record because it had a much more immediacy to it, which, you know, a lot of times you try and go back and get that magic, and it's not necessarily there. But so we basically brought them. In fact, Adam, a few years back on The Voice, they asked them all, what was your chair turning moment in your career? And Adam pointed to us. He said, well, we had done this record with John DeNicola and Tommy Allen, and I would say that was when everything started to take off for us, and that was their chair turning moment for them, which was felt good.
Absolutely. I tell you, it just, you know, shows the impact that you've had in the industry with music that you're responsible for, and helping others sort of get to certain levels in their career and become, you know, fan favorites as well, which I think is really terrific. You mentioned OMAD Productions and then OMAD Records. Tell us about that. You're constantly producing a lot of great music.
Yeah. Yes. OMAD well, it's a boutique label. We still, not all the time, but a lot of the time, put out vinyl for the records. Working with some various kind of artists. The Sighs was a band in the 90s that had a hit called named Think About Soul, and they were close friends of mine after all that happened, and they kind of got messed up because Charisma Records folded into Virgin, so the record kind of got lost. But I maintained friends with them, and we did a record like 20 years later. We did it here at the studio in the barn here, and out of that also I just did. We're working on a second record for Robert LaRoche, who was the lead singer. We did a record last year, Forevermore, and we're working on a new record as we speak, actually. Peter Lewis was always Moby Grape was a band in the 60s out of the San Francisco scene that I was so influenced by. And I met Peter in the 90s, and we started collaborating, and we did 2 albums together. Peter is probably he should be where Neil Young is. I mean, he's one of the most he's the best lyricist I've ever worked with. He's just a beautiful soul and a kind of a sage. In fact, we're doing a documentary about him and his daughter Arwen, who I did a record with Arwen and Peter in 2015. It was a cover of 11 Moby Grape songs with Arwen singing, and Arwen came to Peter at 25 years old and said, "Teach me guitar and songwriting." And so we are actually doing a documentary on that.
Oh, really?
Here at OMAD, and then there's Tommy Pluta, who's also the bass player from the Sighs. Has his stuff is a little more sort of power pop, aggressive guitar, and a band called Fovea. We did they're just out of, well, now they're in their late 20s, but they were just out of college, and we did that record here. And then I did 2 of my own records, which probably my favorite thing to do now, because after years, my first record didn't come out till 2019. I had never thought of myself necessarily as an artist and a singer. I had just put the studio in here, and I had a song with Frankie Previtt that was in a movie, Avenging Angelo, that Sylvester Stallone did. And the song was called You're the Only One. And Steve Holy sang it for the movie. But it never got out of the movie. And there was never a soundtrack. It never went to radio. It was just a song in a movie. And so I always felt that, God, that song could be a hit song. I'm going to do it here and try and get it covered, somebody else to sing it. And when I was looking for someone to sing it, I just decided, well, let me throw my voice down on it, and, just to get it out there. And that snowballed into my first record, The Why Because. I kind of looked for songs in my catalog that I had written for other artists. There was a John Waite song in there, In God's Shadow, that John actually sang on with me, backgrounds, which he was certainly willing to do. I wrote that with John and Keith Reed and Anthony Crison, but Keith Reed, being the writer, the lyricist for Procol Harum, wrote Whiter Shade of Pale. So I looked for songs that I could sing that I had written for others. I did, as I said earlier, I put in the Hungry Eyes, and I was going to leave The Time of My Life off, but I thought I can't. But how would I do that song? And it finally came to me. It's the last song on the record, and it's short. I just played an acoustic guitar and a couple of French horns, and that's it. And I just did a verse, chorus, bridge, out. So,
how many instruments do you play? You're a multi-instrumentalist.
I never counted, but
yeah.
A guitar. I'm a bass player by trade, so many guitars. I have a beautiful Hammond organ up in that room. I have a piano up there. I have a marimba up there. I just got these 1800s pump organs. I have a soprano sax. I have a bass clarinet. Whatever I need to get the song across. It. You look behind me there. There's a dobro, which I just used on something recently there on the dobro, and but whatever I need to do. I wanted to get sort of harken back to Ruby Tuesday, so I got some recorders, the instrument that kids are made to play.
Remember? Yeah.
Brian Jones plays on that.
Ours was a flutophone. I remember that plastic flutophone in Mr. Sebastian's class in 6th grade.
Yeah,
the very first. And
I don't know if we still do that, but we did it, right?
Right.
And then so that record came out, and it was the most fun, because many years of trying to write for others and working with others and what would they want to sing, and so all that was gone because now it was all up to me, and it was kind of liberating for me. And actually the subsequent record, She Said, during the pandemic, I just came in here and plugged in that synth that I mentioned earlier, the Roland Juno 106, and went to town. And that's the video for She Said. That the album title is She Said, and of course the leadoff song is called She Said. But that was all songs I wrote for myself. First time in my life that I wrote songs for me to sing. And I'm very pleased with the reaction to it. I never thought of myself as a singer. I probably still don't, but once again, I'm able to get it across the way I want. I just finished a song that I'm putting on my third record that It's called King of His Own World. And it's my friend from the band I mentioned earlier, Sweetback, that played a lot of Long Island clubs, the 7-piece horn band that Rich Canada that went on to Billy Joel's band. I used the lead singer in that band just passed away, Tim Lawless. He was one of the finest singers I'd ever heard in my life. He could sing a Ronnie Isley tune or a Barry White song, and he was just this Irish dude, just a character, and just a gifted character. He had just passed away, and I'm using all the guys from the original Sweetback band to play, the drummer and the guitarist, and of course I was the bass player, and the horn player, a different one, Rich Canada, was replaced by Jeff Lang, and he's playing on it, and actually was able to get a guy who does a lot of the horn parts for did a lot of the horn parts for Steely Dan. A guy named Rob Mounsey was kind enough to do the horn arrangement for us. It's just I'm just so happy. I'll be putting that out soon.
Do you like singing? Getting back into the groove of singing, and do you see more of that coming out?
Well, I like it in the studio. I don't love live singing.
You won't be touring at any time soon.
I'm doing a gig at Bitter End in May 16th or something. But it's just
cool. Yeah,
just 3 songs and an acoustic guitar. It's part of a songwriter's night,
right?
But I could get on stage and be the bass player or the guitarist or whatever for anybody at any time. That's not a problem. But when the focus is me and my songs and singing, mostly it's the singing that it's just a little bit of stage fright, but I can do it.
You've also served as composer, which I think is really fantastic, for the annual Shakespeare in the Valley program, huh?
I did that for 10 years, 13 years, maybe.
That's in the Northern Catskills. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And it's a program for 13 to 19-year-olds. And so they'll take a play, particularly the director I was working with, Olivia Briggs. She would take it like, we did Cymbeline was post-apocalyptic. We did Romeo and Juliet was 1930s New Orleans. We did 60s. I forget which one that was, but it was a 60s, like Woodstock type music. So she would pick like 6 or 8 scenes where she would want a song, and I worked with Patty Maloney, who did the lyrics for it, and it was a wonderful exercise for both of us. We really felt it was, because you only had a couple of weeks to do this. The whole production was done in a month. So, she'd give us where she wanted the songs and how many songs, and we'd go to town. It was 1849 gold rush. So, it was a lot of fun. I did it because my son was in the program, and then he, they'd run off the stage and get in the pit with me, and he'd play drums, or, whoever could play that was in the play would also come out in the pit. So, and it's a beautiful setting. It's a place called the West Courtright Center. They do it outdoors, and it's in late July, early August, and it's sort of a magical evening.
How far is that from Bethel, where Woodstock was?
Yeah, well, Woodstock was an hour.
We were just up there about a week ago, actually, at the Bethel Woods, the Arts Center there, at the grounds of Woodstock, because there was a woman play happening at Bethel Woods that is being groomed for possible off-Broadway, maybe Broadway, with Anson Williams from Happy Days
Wow.
and legendary actress Lee Purcell from all the movies, and with Steve McQueen and all. And they went there to sort of do it, and it was really incredible. And she plays 14 and telling the story of Anson Williams' wife's crazy mama, which was the name of it. Lee Purcell took on the persona of 14 different characters, and many times all at the same time, one woman show on stage. And they did it there, at the site of Woodstock at Bethel Woods. And yeah, I hadn't been there yet to that iconic site and to that beautiful arts center performance hall, but it's quite a spot there, huh? Have you been to that incredible museum that they have?
I have. That's all. I haven't seen a performance there, but I did go to the museum. And listen, I'm a child of that era, so I didn't go there. I was too young at that point. But that was the heyday musically for what influenced me. So it's to me, I could argue that 67 or 68 was the greatest years, couple of years for rock music. You're talking Jimi Hendrix, you're talking Traffic, you're talking the Beatles, you're talking the Rolling Stones. They're kind of the I don't want to say the peak for the Beatles and Rolling Stones, but Big Brother and Holding Company. We had our Americans had the San Francisco scene to compete, our answer to the Beatles, right? So you had Grateful Dead, you had Santana, you had Moby Grape, who I mentioned earlier, Quicksilver Messenger, so Jefferson Airplane. All those bands were, sort of in my wheelhouse.
What a wheelhouse for sure, I tell you. What are some other cool things you're excited about you're working on? And do you see yourself scoring movies and having material that is in movies and documentaries and other works continuing? Is that something you enjoy doing?
I didn't. We wrote songs for the movie Dirty Dancing. I was not. I've never been.
Wasn't specific, right? Yeah.
It wasn't scoring necessarily. It was
Right.
There were songs. I have scored a couple of things, and I do have fun doing it. For me in the future, it's just continuing to produce other artists, continue to do my own records. I'm always songwriting with somebody. In fact, John Waite and I had spoken not so long ago about doing some stuff. He's still very active. So yeah, I mean, it's just more projects. I hadn't mentioned Russ Dust, but
Yes.
Jason Stutz is really a one-man band, but I think we're going to do a live. We're going to take, we've done 2 records together. We're going to take 10 or 12 of his songs and fill it out with a band and record it live in the barn with my friend Pete Kepler. Has I could do it here, but this is just fun for fun. Pete has in the old days, both Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones had mobile recording studios. So he has tricked out a mobile vehicle, and he's going to pull that up here, and we're going to do a live version of this of Jason's Rust Dust material, and we're looking forward to that. I'm working on, as I said, my 3rd record and Robert LaRoche's our 2nd record together. What else is there?
Did you ever get involved in commercials and jingles and writing music for any of that world?
I didn't. The only way was with, as I said earlier, when they were used, The Time of My Life or Hungry Eyes were used in commercials, but I never was quote unquote a jingle writer. Yeah, you know what? I did a couple of jingles, but I'm especially now, I'm doing things that I get excited about, I really want to do.
Things that speak to your heart and soul.
Yeah, I mean, and as I stated, doing my own stuff is, especially with all these tools around me. It's just,
I mean, tell us about the room that you're in. It's pretty nice.
this is the main instrument recording room. There's a tape machine there, as you can see, a 16-track tape machine. This is gear. There's the big room. If you can see the barn, there's a big room out there with the right in front of us. There is that pump organ. Am I pointing it in the right direction? Yeah. And
it's fantastic.
And then up the stairs in that other room. So this big room can't really work in it in the winter because it's too cold. But upstairs across the way, there's another heated room within the barn where I have all those instruments. But the dream is to one day enclose this room too. But at the same time, and then there's another room over here, loaded with amps and stuff like that.
This is a beautiful house.
Yeah, this is the barn. So it's an 1850s, 1840s barn, and we carved out a couple of rooms from it. Yeah, it's very creative. Every artist I brought up here, just loves it. They just love coming up here.
You win the award as the kid with the best toy chest on the block.
The best man cave. Yeah, well, we're in the middle of nowhere, so it's kind of nice, and it's just the beauty of the area is wonderful.
How does that inspire your music and what you do, being sort of more remote, crazy hustle and bustle as a way and time to think and create?
Yeah, all I can say is I feel like I'm doing the best work I've ever done. So something about it is inspiring. And like I said, the guys that come up here to record, guys and gals, they hate to leave. It's on top of that, the area has a real focus on small local products, farms and cheese and distilleries and beers and vegetables, and it's all farm to table around here, which has really been wonderful.
Where on the island it was from exit to exit.
Right. Exactly.
And late night runs at White Castle.
Yes. Or, what was the one that used to be by the Swayze and East Setauket? A Jack in the Box. 4 in the morning.
Remember Jack in the Box, 4 in the morning?
After the gig. New York closed gigs.
Yeah.
New York clubs closed at 4.
What are you doing getting home this late? It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Don't you know that? You've got school in the morning.
Yeah. Well, some of those nights we'd go to have after hours bars. So you wouldn't get out until the sun was up.
Are you still connected with some of the original people on Long Island when you were coming up the ranks? So they're still friends and buddies from the earlier bands, or just people you grew up with that you're still connected with, and they've seen your incredible success and they're proud and excited for it?
Yeah, just recently, again, going back to that song with the guys from Sweetback, that has kind of put me back in touch with a number of them, because there were different players through the years, and a guy that was the first keyboard player in the band Sweetback. I hadn't spoken to him in 30 years, and he was helping with this tune. he played a Rhodes part, and as I said, I wanted to keep them all, the original band members, in that, just to tie it all together to Tim. And so I have rekindled, I would say, rekindled a lot of those connections. I mean, some of the guys I've always, there was another friend of mine, Jim Yeager, who was in Flight and Sweetback with me. He has passed also, way too young, but he was one of the greatest keyboard players I'd ever met. He played with Cyndi Lauper and a number of other bands. Just an ambidextrous. When he was in Sweetback, he'd have a Hammond. He'd have what they call a Mellotron, which was a big unit back then. He'd have a mini Moog. He'd have a clavinet and a Fender Rhodes piano, and he'd be ambidextrous all night long, just covering all the parts, and just really great musicians. And the horn players, the horn section, I used on this song, King of His Own World. Jeff was the guy that was in the band with me, but there were three other. We had Jeff actually played alto, tenor, and baritone, and then there were two other guys. One was a trumpet player, and one's a trombone player, who Jeff had known. Leon and I can't think of the other guys now. I didn't know that. I actually never met them till now. But they had all worked with Tim also in a band called the Funk Philharmonic, which was kind of a Long Island big. A lot of those guys went on to play with Tower of Power and stuff and bands like that. But they're like I don't know how many pieces. It's like a 6 horn band. So anyway, I was put in touch with those guys, and they all played on this song.
Been doing this a long time, my friend.
I actually just had them, the same guys, play on our demo of The Time of My Life. Actually never had, we had synth horns. We never actually put the horns in. The final version had the horns in. So in reworking our demo, which I'd been doing through the years, and just again recently, we actually put new vocals on, which are really wonderful. Some younger singers, and I had the same horn section play on The Time of My Life to do those horn parts that we never did. And we put the horn parts down, but not with horns. We put it with synths and synth horns. So finally, after all these years, did it, and it was actually Jeff Lang, Leon Petruzzi, and Terry Negrelli are the horn players that finally after all these years, we put it down on here.
That's really cool that these songs, all the music you've been involved in, but those particular songs, of course, most notable, I've Had the Time of My Life and Hungry Eyes, you're able to sort of play with them and tweak them and do different things, like you're saying, all these years later with them, which is kind of cool, huh?
Yeah, no, it's great. It's wonderful. I'll play a little snippet if you can get it over there. This is the up tempo. Different new vocal. This could be love because a little more of a dance feel.
That's really cool, I tell you. I mean, I would imagine your epitaph 200 years from now, that's what it's going to say. I've had the time of my life.
Yeah.
I've had the time of my life because I had hungry eyes.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't like to think in terms of epitaphs, but it is a it's a nice legacy to have and leave, you know. Um, I feel, you know, right now, like I said, I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling
You're in
music.
a sweet spot,
I
right?
really am. I feel good. Whether others agree, I don't know, but I'm feeling it. So that's, I have to feel it first before anybody else going to feel it.
You like the teaching and mentoring others? Is that something that you could see yourself doing more of as you go along?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy that. It comes natural to me. I wouldn't call myself a teacher, but I can mentor. I'm a fairly easygoing person, and I absolutely enjoy working with somebody who's, um, you know, if I can help impart to them something that would help them to move forward. The bottom line, if you're going to do music, especially the way streaming is stealing all the money from songwriters, the only way you're going to want to do music is because you love it. And in a way you have to. I had to do music. I don't know what kind of person I would be if I didn't do music. It's been in me since a youngster, and it's been good to me. And everything I do is sort of heartfelt. Is sort of almost stream of consciousness now. I don't think much. I just go. I just play. And
Yeah, that's what it is, right?
yeah, I don't know if that's it for everybody, but for me, it is. That's how I've come to roll. I just pick up a guitar or a piano and go, and I build upon it. I get an idea, a seed, build on that, and the ideas are flowing nicely right now. And part of producing other artists for me is like it's a distraction. So if I'm a little bogged down songwriting wise, I just can get into somebody else's as an artist, just pull the artistry out of them, and not necessarily songwrite with them, just as a producer and engineer and musician, like with Robert LaRoche's new record. He comes here and he will lay to a click. He'll lay an acoustic guitar, do all the vocals, all the harmonies, because he knows what he wants. And then I build tracks around that, with my dobro or my electric guitar or the organ upstairs, or yeah. So that is a nice yin to my yang. So the songwriting is on one end and the production is on the other end. And of course they do cross in a good way.
And then there is always that fabulous word in these industries that is needed and is embraced, and it's called residuals.
Yeah. Residual, I think, that's more for for commercials and people singing on that. It's royalties is the
royalties, exactly.
Royalties. Yeah, that's what I worry about for young artists. We were lucky because these songs were in a time when people bought CDs and LPs, and we could actually make money. Streaming does not allow. It's not great for artists, and it's particularly bad for songwriters. They don't pay. They don't want to pay. They don't pay, and it's not fair. We had to go to Congress to, it's little is it known that songwriters, because of the Reagan years presidency, were deemed not allowed to unionize. I have no idea how they ever came to that. So we can't do what the Screenwriters Guild did and go on strike. We're not allowed to unionize. So they're still taking advantage of songwriters. They're still using laws that came about in the early 1900s.
Mm.
They're binding us to those laws and
Yeah.
rules governing. So if you want to support an artist, if you have a favorite band, yeah, go ahead and stream, but make it a point to buy their LP or their CD or download from Bandcamp or iTunes, download their songs. That's the only way they're going to see any money. That we're talking thousands for stream is like thousandths of a penny for a stream. So I can get in a quarter, I can get 8 million streams, 10 million streams, and make $300 or $400. That's not right. And a band that, that's out there that would be, it'd be wonderful to get a couple of 100,000 streams, right? They can't live off that. They can't live off $10.
No.
No.
So could you imagine there's and it's more probably now, but roughly that 32 million copies of that song sold back then. I've had the time of my life, Billboard charting, the whole bit. If that was just streams, the only thing in that room that you have would just be your 1979 Panasonic handheld cassette deck.
Yeah, that's about it. I was just reading, who was it? Was it Snoop Dogg, or might have been Snoop Dogg? He said, how is it possible that I have like 1 billion streams on something? I forget who it was. Just the other day I read it. 1 billion streams. And the money was hardly anything. He couldn't believe how that's possible.
And it's pre-tax.
Yeah, right. So something's got to give. Something's got to change. Spotify is now moving to even do some kind of shenanigans to pay songwriters even less. They were made to pay a little bit more recently by the Congress, and now they're trying to figure out a way around that so that they can. I don't know. I don't exactly know. I just saw it recently. So they want to try and pay us less, and we're making, and they're making, like, if the songwriter gets 4% out of the stream, they're making like 31%. The record label's making like 40%. Publishers making like 14%. The artist is making a small amount, and the songwriter is making next to nothing.
I still have all of my CDs. I have a huge music collection. We even have a climate controlled storage bin we pay monthly for that's filled with LPs and reel to reel and cassettes and a lot of my television work too, that's on video, 3/4 inch and everything that you don't want to ever have melt and disappear in a fire and flood. Everything is in there, and thousands of CDs collected of all genres of music. And in the car, has got the CD player, and in addition to Sirius XM, the CD player is used a lot. I just like the physical putting it in, selecting the song. Just there's something about it. I still have boxes of cassette tapes that I've either purchased or they were mixed versions that you made and you would play, and they would go for an hour without having to change anything. Yeah. Still have all that, and you know what? Those darn things sound actually pretty good.
So much better. LP, cassette is always going to sound better. I have a theory. I read about it once, and I haven't been able to find the article again. The reason people still like that early, like 60s, even 50s and 60s music that was recorded on analog gear to tape is because analog imprints better on your brain than digital. Digital is enough samples to make you think you're hearing the full spectrum. Analog is the full spectrum of
warmer, richer, more feeling, more depth.
Dropping a needle on a LP, that electric feeling that you have when you drop it, and you just feel that low end and the connection. that's thankfully LPs are making a bit of a comeback. I think CDs are too, believe it or not.
That's what I heard, right? I was hearing about them. Boy, I used to spend so many hours at Record World. I'd hit all the ones on the island, Long Island, and
Yeah.
then go into the city and then come up to Connecticut. And I would go and you'd go through all the bargain bins, but you'd also spend hours with the headphones on listening. You used to actually be able to sample everything. And it was like an event to go to something like Record World, but the other one, Tower Records. Yeah.
Tower.
You spend hours there, and it was an event to do that. And I miss all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now I know I have told this story before, but when I was 12, my cousin, who was much older than me, had in Hicksville, had what they call a one stop for LPs. So all the record labels, all the record stores, mom and pop stores in the tri-state area would go to the distributor, a one stop. And so she had a one stop, and they supplied all the stores in the area. And my mom let me go in there. I was 12 years old, and let me pick 3 records. And I picked Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced, Traffic, Mr. Fantasy, and Moby Grape's first record. And that was it for me. I mean, I was already into music, but
he was hooked. Yeah.
That was the end of it.
That was it. It all happened in Hicksville.
All happened in Hicksville.
There's the name of your next song.
Yeah.
It all happened in Hicksville.
Yeah. Not a bad idea.
You are obviously somebody who has enjoyed this. It's not the easiest of industries, and you all these years later, you're still in it. You've had some really extraordinary moments in your life that you couldn't have scripted that have come your way as a result of, like, bottom line, doing what you love. It wasn't even necessarily, and it still isn't, it seems, just in listening to you and knowing your story, that commercial success, revenue, bill paying, all part of it, but not what motivates or has driven you to do what you do. It's the music. It's the sharing of the music, the creation of the music that is the driving force. And if there are Academy Awards and Golden Globes and Grammy nominations and epic sales of material, that's fabulous, but that's not what drives John initially in his heart and soul to do it, right?
Well, that's true. I mean, it's always just been my love. So, of course, success is great and it's wonderful, and I'm so happy I am a successful songwriter and able to continue to stay in the business and make music. Nowadays, it would be hard, as we just spoke of. It can't be about how much money you're going to make, because with streaming, unless you're out touring, you're not going to make much money. It's enough to keep going. I'm lucky. I was in when the music business still paid. So that's why I fear for a young songwriter now. Something's got to change. Something's got to be different. But I, as I stated, I'm having the most fun I've ever had, and it is a ton of fun to walk into a room and there's nothing. There's silence, and after a bit of time, you've created something that didn't exist in this world before, and it's there, and people can now hear it and like it or not like it, love it or hate it.
Does it ever get hard to continue to come up with material? I asked that because I heard a conversation recently that I thought was fascinating. There's so much truth to it. Obviously, there's only a certain amount of notes, and somebody said in this conversation, gee, we've almost created with those notes almost everything you can create with those limited notes. How do you ever have a situation where when you're creating music, it doesn't sound like something we've heard before? That's got to be a real brain teaser for somebody like you.
I don't, there's a certain amount of, someone like me, and I imagine a lot of songwriters, you're spending your whole life taking in other people's music because you're a music lover. So all that comes in through many years, through the years, and it gets distilled and regurgitated in a slightly different way. Yeah, there's only 12 notes, but obviously there's a lot you can do with them. So I feel like it's, something like Hungry Eyes poured out of years of listening, and it just poured out in a way that was with the cosmos. It was stream of consciousness, because it played itself down in 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, and I had a song. I think it's like they have all these AI things now where you just feed a bunch of things into it and then it spits it out. Well, I think we're a computer ourselves. Our brain, just takes in all this stuff and can put it together in a different way than there's a lot of times, well, I'll finish a song and I was inspired by this song, and sometimes I go, oh, is it too close? And I'll play it for people and other songwriters I'm working with, and I go, no, that doesn't sound, I don't even know how you related that to that first song. So I'll use a song for inspiration, but it doesn't, it's never sounds the same, never sounds close to, it's an inspiration that gets me going on my journey with a song.
Do you at all stay in touch with Bill Medley, Jennifer Warnes at all?
No, Jennifer, I spoke to a while back when I had some ideas musically for her. Bill, I haven't really spoken to. I know Frankie did not so long ago. Eric Carmen I had spoken to maybe a year before he passed away. I'm still very much in touch with Eleanor Bergstein, who wrote the movie. She's really a close friend, actually, with my family. She watched my son grow. In fact, I went to, unfortunately, Emil Ardolino passed away 88, maybe 89. It was 90. I'm sorry. It was 93.
93.
My son was just born. And I brought my son to his funeral, and we saw Eleanor. And so she's seen him the whole way growing up. So she's a close friend.
Incredible. Really, it's amazing. And the story continues, my friend. And this was really fantastic, taking a trip down memory lane, but also talking about some of the new projects and cool things that you're working on that you're very excited about, and giving us that mini tour of that beautiful barn studio that you've got there. And, you've just touched so many generations, you and all the others, because it takes a village, people you've collaborated with and fellow musicians and other songwriters and the performers themselves. And it's just really, really fantastic to hear a little bit more about how these things came together and what your process is like, and just the experience of growing up on the island and some of the influences that have led to this material that we still hang on to. Fantastic talking to you, my fellow Long Islander, and continued success to you. I truly enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate your wit and wisdom and your authenticity and telling these great stories. And we're going to keep the porch light on for you, my friend. And I hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you.
Yeah, it was great. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that too. And this will be live as it is now, but it's going to be also archived so people can see it on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. And come back and see us and keep us posted on all the cool things you're working on. You got a lot going on, John. And thanks for all of the music over the years. Really, probably you're grateful and appreciative of those who express it to you, but there's so many more that you've touched who never get a chance to say that to you. So on behalf of all of them, we say thank you, my friend.
Cool. Thanks. You know, if anybody's interested in any of the artists, you can go to omadrecords.com, OMAD records.com.
Fantastic. omadrecords.com. And there's, we've been showing John's site as well. So you can check out the music and all the other cool things. And this was really fantastic, my friend. You be well and stop by and see us again. Okay.
Sounds good.
And
Thanks
enjoy that beautiful spot there. It's got to be gorgeous in the summer and the fall there.
Today is beautiful.
It's really nice.
I'm going to go out and wash my car.
You're going to go out and wash your car now?
Yeah.
I usually say people are going to make a sandwich or something.
I want to wash the car, but it's a moot point because once I drive down the hollow, it's full of dirt. So.
You be well, my friend. And thanks for stopping by the Jim Masters Show. Truly an honor and a pleasure.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. You take care now. See you soon. John DeNicola, isn't he not incredible? And we talked a lot about, we hit upon Dirty Dancing, but his incredible career and all of the incredible music too. I know we use that word incredible a lot, but sometimes it just is the word to use. Look at these great comments that are coming in. Cheyenne Smith says, thanks so much for this. You are very welcome. And Anna Marie E., see you, John. Good to see you as well. And Sherry Larson. These are some of our viewers. And that's John, of course, in his upstate New York studio there. Thank you, John. Please come back soon. Do you remember when MP3 players were just taking off? Pierre? Yes, absolutely. Kathleen's in New York City. And she says, thanks for being here, John. This was such fun. Great conversation. Continued success with all that you do. I agree. And, it's really cool to hear the backstory of some of the artists and the people who create the music that we all enjoy. Merlin is in Ontario, Canada. And says, thanks for being here, John. Glad you are having the time of your life now. Absolutely. Yeah. Maureen says she remembers calling a radio station to request a song, then sitting close to the radio so you can hit record on the tape recorder. A friend of mine used to own a company. It's, I think, now something else. So he may have retired, but it was called Disc Location, and used to be able to call the radio station and sort of, you could even hum that melody, even if it was instrumental. And the radio station would then toss you off to this 800 number, which was for Disc Location, which was in the Midwest. And my friend Jim owned that company for decades. And they could find, even if you were just mumbling, blah, 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 somehow he knew what song that was. Oh, that's so-and-so by so-and-so, even if it was instrumental, so-and-so by so-and-so. And we either have that and we can ship it to you, or here's where you can go to get it. Unbelievable. And it's somebody who's a real diehard aficionado. Talked about, of course, the iconic movie Dirty Dancing, Patrick Swayze, Jennifer Grey, and all that great music, Hungry Eyes. I've had the time of my life, and just all the music in it. Really, really cool to hear that behind the scenes, right? And so much more. Again, John has had the opportunity to work with iconic artists and collaborate with so many phenomenal people. And he's working with so many people now, which I think is great. Really cool and a pleasure to have John DeNicola here. Award-winning, Academy Award-winning, Golden Globe-winning, Grammy-nominated songwriter, musician, producer, singer, and he's producing his own music too, with him as the lead, which I think is really cool. So there'll be much more of that coming out, and keep abreast of it and add it to your collection. We've talked a lot about music in recent days, and add some of this stuff to your collection. Go back in time and pull out maybe some of the music you have in your collection and hear it again. It's the good stuff, as they say. Good stuff with these comments coming in as well. We thank you very, very much, everybody, for all these great words and your love and support of the Jim Masters Show Live, Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show Series. Cool stuff. And just want to let you know that we've got some really iconic people that are stopping by the Jim Masters Show Live Series. So check out our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, and all of our social media. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Masters TV. We also promote our series on those venues as well. If you enjoyed this episode of the Jim Masters Show with John, our very special guest, give it a like. Click the like, thumbs up button on the YouTube channel. We would really appreciate that. Leave a comment for us on the channel in the comment section. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Doesn't cost anything. That helps us grow. And share this episode. Click share and put it on your social media. That helps us grow as well. Austin Field watching says, another wonderful show. Please subscribe for great content. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that, everybody. This has been terrific. Maureen says you enjoy spending the time with us, and we thank you for being here as well. Jane in Sweden, same thing, and Kathleen in New York City. All of you, we appreciate all your time and spending time with us here at the Jim Masters Show. Come see us again. Again, we'll be right here waiting for you, as Richard Marx once sang. Well, I will be right here waiting for you as well. And stop by our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, and check out almost 1,200 other episodes we've done with celebrity friends and guests who've stopped by the Jim Masters Show series. So we say thank you for watching, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, and all the rest. Come by and see us again. I'm your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time, I'll be right here waiting for you, as we always do. Take care of one another. Love one another. Don't forget to take care of and love yourself. Very important to do. Be well. Thanks for joining us, and cheers.